Hello, once again, I am Doc Rodden, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net, and tonight we are reviewing The Craft Legacy. Yes. All right, joining me tonight is the one and only Dreher.
You kind of petered out there a little bit, Doc. What's wrong?
Petered out.
Well, it wasn't a normal gusto I've become accustomed to.
I was trying to be subtle, man.
I like it.
Reel it back in and,
Yeah.
full of emotion and
dramatic.
Dramatic drama, yes.
He's embracing his millennial witch.
There you go. That's it.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Also joining us, award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
Oh,
I believe
you were really
in
dramatic, Chris.
magic.
Wow.
Oh, you believe in magic? Oh my!
Make yourself sparkle.
Some magic.
Don't sparkle. No,
let me turn my aura different colors like it's a light bulb.
Oh God, there's no sparkling. All right. What are we going to do? We're going to review The Craft Legacy. We're going to give our initial reaction, our first thoughts, and then we're going to talk about the film for a little bit, and then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene from the film. All right, what film are we talking about? It's called Craft Legacy. It's a Lego sequel, as they say. Came out October 28th from Blumhouse and Columbia Pictures. The synopsis goes, and Blumhouse's continuation of the cult film The Craft. An eclectic foursome of aspiring teenage witches get more than they bargained for as they lean into their newfound powers. Sounds very familiar. Yes, it's directed by Zoe Lister-Jones, or Zoe, and written by Zoe Lister-Jones, based on the characters created by Peter Filardi. The cast includes Cailee, Spaeny, Zoe Luna, Gideon, Adlon, Lovie, Simone, David Duchovny, Michelle Monaghan, Nicholas Galvazine. I don't know why I messed that up, but it's right there. And small spoilers, Fairuza Balk is Nancy Downs. I don't think that's going to surprise anybody, and but they think it is. The entire movie, they think it is, and they draw that out. Oh, it's just like, okay. All right, so this is a film. There was a film called The Legacy decades back. I actually watched that movie a few months back, maybe 4 months back, and I thought it held up. It actually holds up. Fairuza Balk is a big reason for it, and for it holding up. So, but can they keep this property alive? Can they resurrect it? Can they bring a Lego sequel? That's all the questions we're going to answer tonight. Those and many more, actually. So let's get things rolling with our first impressions. And Dave, we always like to go with you first when we have teen dramas. So,
of course.
What was your first impression of The Craft Legacy?
I'm sure everyone's looking forward to watching a teen witch film being reviewed by 3 middle-aged guys.
Oh,
so,
damn you! Damn you!
Obviously, this film was not meant for our demographic, if you will. The original Craft, it was 98, 96?
Yeah.
Kind of famous. Famous in my world because, of course, Nev Campbell and Fairuza Balk. That's really pretty much all I knew about it. I knew it was about witches.
96.
Yeah, 96. Crazy. Fairuza Balk is at a lot of conventions. We do all these conventions full moon, and she's at a lot of them. And man, she is a huge draw. Huge. So this film definitely, I think, would have or will have its audience. I'm glad we got to screen this at home because I think I'd have felt out of place in the theater.
Yeah.
With a bunch of 13 and 14-year-old girls. With that being said, though, really not knowing much of the original film and realizing that it wasn't meant for me, I did kind of enjoy this movie. It stands on its own 2 feet. I was very surprised to see David Duchovny in it. I had no idea he was in this. And I wound up enjoying his character quite a bit. I'm sure a lot of the play into the old film went completely over my head, other than the last scene. But I'm sure there was stuff in there to satisfy all the craft addicts that are out there, and they'll be gleefully pointing at the screen and going, "Oh!" But they were all lost on me. But again, as I said right before we started recording this, I can't sit here and tell you that I wasn't entertained by it, because I was. So that's my first impression.
All right, entertaining is not a bad thing to say. All right, Christopher G. Moore, what was your first impression of the Craft legacy?
Well, I can definitely say this film was not meant for me. Let me just say that first of all. Secondly, I think it's a real misstep as a legacy sequel, or as I call it, Powerpuff Witches.
Powerpuff Witches. Wow.
Because they basically took the Craft and turned it into like one of those cheesy commercials from the 80s, like, I can put on makeup like a witch, and it's you have very fluorescent aura stuff, and them just using magic to create makeup and changing people's outfits a different color, and it's I think, and then you have like David Duchovny's part, who's almost like Tom Cruise's part from Magnolia, where he's all about like men's rights or something. Which I think with that part, they could have easily done a similar thing that they did in Lost Boys. I think the problem is you don't really, there's no hiding who the real villain is, no matter what they try to do with the story. And I think, I knew from the very beginning I cringed, because there's this whole thing where the girl is like in the car with her mom and they're trying to sing along, and it just looks fake. It looks like there's no like chemistry there. And then when we meet like this whole coven of girls, they're just thrown into that. There's not really any real, at least with the original Craft, you had certain issues some of these different characters had, and you kind of know where they're coming from. And in this one, you just have them there. There's not really any much backstory. And even the the amazing use of actual trans actor in a trans part. It's not really, there's not, much to it. And then, so yeah, I think, and I read an interview with the filmmaker, who's actually an actor. She didn't want them fighting each other as much as they did in the original. And I think that's a real disservice to the drama and the story to this, because you have them and they're like, there's really no, other than dealing with like the main villain, there's really no gaining knowledge type thing. It's like it's automatically they're able to like stop time and use their powers and do all this stuff just willy-nilly. And it's like there's no, it's you really want sort of a learning stage to that, even though they have that little montage sequence very popular in the 80s. But yeah, I just didn't, to me, this felt more, it felt like an 80s commercial where you have all like, oh, let's all do this fun thing together because we're girlfriends, and it's, and then it's like, there's that weird thing of like, where they do like the love thing on the one guy or whatever, and it's not really consensual or whatever. And then it's like, oh, he's going to be a better person because of this and stuff. And so I don't know. I just have a lot of issues with this, and it's so heavy-handed with the whole men patriarchal thing that it kind of takes you. I don't know if you remember the Black Christmas movie. You know how heavy-handed that kind of element of that was, to where there's like
remake, yeah.
The Imogene Poots one.
Yeah, the Poots. You just like saying the name. I wish my name was Poots.
Poots. Christopher G. Poots.
It even sounds like it, right? That's a real sidetrack there. But it's sort of like that, to where it's like they're so heavy-handed with that kind of message that it kind of pulls you out of it to where it almost makes, you know, the Duchovny character more of a caricature and something that's like not even a real character. And I think a lot of that stuff would have been more interesting if some of that stuff had been revealed throughout the process of the film, in the same way that you have characters kind of their arc when it comes to going from A to Z during a film. So I don't know. I just had a lot of problems with, I think they could have, I mean, I understand you're making this for new generation, but this felt, yeah, it felt like, you know, clueless Wiccans. It was like,
Clueless Wiccans.
It's like, you
That's
have these
hilarious.
characters and they're not really doing a lot with it. And I think in the process of trying to make it to where the girls aren't infighting as much, it seems fake. You know, it's like they're just thrown into this with and yeah, I don't know. I did not enjoy this. It didn't feel it. Yeah, I mean, I will say there's parts that I enjoyed, but overall, I just thought this was a sad way to sort of continue that. It just made me appreciate the original much more.
Yeah, I like that sentiment. I think this film made me appreciate the original much more as well. This movie is it's an awkward mess. It basically focuses on just the one character. It leaves the other three kind of underwhelming. They're there, but they're not as richly developed like the original, right? And it's hard. You know, you're going to be unable to compare it to the original. It comes with the territory. So it's not the same kind of knit group. There still isn't that energy. That, you know, it lacks that energy. It's kind of weak sauce in that element. The conflict isn't very strong, and a lot of that is because what I said earlier is that they focus on Lily, right? It's Lily's story, and that's fine, but it wasn't that interesting of a story, and it was a little bit thin and obvious where things were going. At the same time, it's fast-paced enough and it's entertaining, like Dave said, and I agree with that. I wasn't bored with the film. I enjoyed watching it, but it didn't really strike me as anything. It just didn't bring anything new. It needed to bring something. It tried. I mean, there were elements that were injected that were there to bring in new things, but at the same time, it just didn't work. And it also repeated the first story a little too closely, which I hate to say because I kind of wish it followed it a little closer. Like Christopher was saying, you know, the conflict between the characters at the end of the craft is what, you know, really gives that film a lot of oomph and pow at the end. You know, you follow them and you're with them, and then suddenly they have this dissension, and then you're who do you root for and who's going to win, and how fast is Fairuza Balk going to fly into your face? So, which there need to be more flying in this movie. Why weren't they flying? That was some of the fun parts of the first one, was when they were flying around. Here they just stop time and butterflies sit in front of their face. I mean, that's kind of weird. So I'm real conflicted. I'm real conflicted about this movie because I want to like it. I want to root for it. I want them to pick up where they left off. But at the same time, it just doesn't have the pow. It doesn't have the gusto, the energy. It doesn't have the chemistry that this film needs, that it wants, that it begs for, that it promises and fails to deliver. So I think like you said, it's made for a different crowd than the three of us, and the kind of horror films, or even these type of films that we might enjoy. It's really watered down from that, and really targeted toward the audience that obvious from the advertising. So will it work for them? Maybe I can't see it getting like a cult status, like The Craft did. The Craft just kind of is one of those films that, grabbed the attention of, audiences at that time or after that time as it grew and people kept following it. There was also other things involved, with, DVDs and Blu-rays and, which isn't the case now, right? It's weird. Things are weird now. So will it catch on? I don't know. I digress, but I'm going to end there because it's a kind of entertaining is maybe the best thing you can say about it. It's entertaining, but it's not good.
Well, I think for me, the coven of characters are just very one-dimensional. You know what I mean?
Except for the lead. The lead's the only one.
But even to some degree, you don't see much. Again, you don't see much arc with your character, but the other characters are just like, I would love to see, why these girls are the losers, supposedly, Right. It's like, let's see some pushback from other people. I think for me, the more interesting character was the Timmy character, because when he has that overall change, he became very interesting when he opens up and reveals himself. And there's a thing with the Ouija board, I thought, even though I hate Ouija boards, there's a thing with the Ouija board I think was really kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But I think him revealing himself and being a little bit more woke or whatever about things, he became a much more interesting character. But at the same time, it's like, is he really woke, or is it just the magical spell, that's making him be like that? And that's kind of fakeness, to where I think throughout part of it, I was kind of, is he acting? Is he actually, you know what I mean? So yeah. I don't know. I feel like I think that this story could have been told a whole lot better, because if you had some of these girls that were bullied or whatever by other people, seeing that and seeing their kind of issues with that, I didn't really see them as the weird ones. They were just the quirky ones. I feel like they should have said, we're the quirky ones, mister. Because they weren't the goth girls from the original Craft. No. They were just like, and even some of their styles were actually more stylish than what you'd think with the goofy weird ones. So I don't know. I wanted there to be some more bite to this. Right. Because they almost made magic feel like it made it like Disney magic. It felt like it felt like something you'd say if you went to Disney World and you'd see like a little thing of like sparkly going, too much
Tinkerbell, a little too much.
Yeah, because even to the point of creating magical sparkly makeup on their cheeks and stuff. It's like they've turned witchcraft into more makeup craft, and just like, I don't know. It felt like it almost felt like it was not taking in the direction it should have, to where it made it almost too like stereotypically girly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I did find I think the scene where she's in the class and she has her period, I think that was a very powerful part. But, I did not like David Duchovny at all. I thought I felt like they should have had a reveal with him like they did in Lost Boys with the guy that was dating the boy's mom,
Diane Wiest.
Yeah, I think if they had that kind of reveal, like if he was totally acting opposite than what he was or something, that would have been a great reveal. But the reveal in this is like,
it was a little like on the nose, right?
Yeah.
And there's also an interesting thing going on with that, because when they move in together, there's three brothers, right? And some of the brothers are involved with this thing that the father's involved with, without trying to spoil it. But then once we get to our conclusion, that whole, whatever that thread was kind of vanished. They never came back to it once they started focusing, and it was like, well, this is kind of stupid. And there's no, I don't know, there wasn't any conflict to it. There wasn't any, and I don't feel like they were going for that. That's the thing, is I don't think they were going for that kind of conflict. They were going for, these four girls, becoming united again. And that's they went for that, and it works to a degree. It works enough, like I said, it works enough to make it entertaining, but it doesn't make it stand out or make it good.
Well, and I think one thing that it's like this. I mean, the way that I read that, like as it gets towards the end, is like the only way you could fight a man is if you fight him all as 4 girls. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. It felt kind of like, I don't know if that's the right message you should be sending. I mean, I've granted we should all work together on things, but it almost felt like it made the one guy more seeming like he's more powerful individually than a whole group of women. So I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot to take away from this, and I understand what they're trying to shoot for, but I think in the process of trying to take the bite of not having drama between people, it kind of sucked the life out of the film. And I think that's kind of sad, because I think that's why the original is still very iconic and stands out to people. And this one doesn't. This feels like it. Yeah, it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. Dave, you said that you enjoyed David Duchovny in this, and I did for what he was. I don't think he brought anything extra special to it, but at the same time, he still had a presence, right? He still had that. When he does this thing, he does this thing, and it works, or at least it did for me. Yep. I don't think Christopher agrees, but what else about it did you like about him? Well, just having him there?
Yeah, when we have these discussions, sometimes I'm not ever sure if sometimes you guys are overthinking things or if I'm just underthinking things. I'm going to lean more towards I'm underthinking things because I think this whole movie, it exists for one reason and one reason only, and that's the final shot of this movie. I think it was all just built up just to get there. It's like, okay, look, we can't just have a 45-second movie. So we got to build this whole thing. So now we're set up for whatever, the Craft Legacy 2 or Legacy, whatever it's going to be. We got this, again, I know we don't want to get spoilery. I can never say spoilery. With it, but they telegraph this ending from about the 1/3 point of the movie all the way down through. I mean, we see it coming, and it kind of follows the plot line all the way down until we get to that last scene. So yeah, I don't know that they were really worried about any type of a team with our 4 girls. I think the team that we were striving to get to was the team we see in the last shot of the movie. And that's kind of how I took it. I just kind of took it like, this is this girl's journey. She had to get here to realize she had these powers to make her mother admit to what was going on so we could end up here. Right. It was just kind of basic story outline. So none of that bothered me. And really one of the entertained me about any of it was David Duchovny. Although I think our lead is very good. I thought she was a good actress. The again, spoilery. I'm not going to say too much, but there's some pretty heavy, actually 2 different scenes of some pretty serious drama that I think she pulls off quite well. I mean, I felt moved by them.
Yeah, I like her quite a bit. She was in Devs, played Lyndon. I don't know if you watched Devs. She was in Pacific Rim Uprising. Christopher, your favorite movie of a couple years ago. She was the young sister in Bad Times at the El Royale.
Oh.
So I mean, she does a good job, and I think she brings a lot to this.
I think they laid a lot on her. I think if it's going to continue, I don't know that it's going to, but if it's going to, I think they've laid it at her feet to take it and run.
Yeah. So, and I think you're right about like the other characters because of how the film ends. It, unless she backtracks, it's, not going to happen that way. You kind of think they're going to have to, right? You got to bring the crew back together, right? Yeah, the twist is they don't ever, even though they don't spell it out, but they don't disguise it either, right? No, they don't even pretend to say it could be this one or this one or this one. They just don't say it's that one, and it's just like la 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 la, and but I was wanting more out of that. I was really disappointed
Yeah, I mean, well, seriously,
how little
it's a 10
we got.
it's a 10-second shot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nothing.
Yeah, but the I don't know. Okay, so this movie was obviously planned to go to the theaters, and of course we live in 2020, so what makes it to theaters? Would this have played well in theaters, do you think? Do you think the audience would have found this regardless of how we personally feel about it?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I honestly don't know. I think fans of the original would have gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all those people I see lined up at at that lady's table at the conventions, they all would have been there.
Yeah.
I don't know if any, because I would say this is, what would you think? These are tailored to 11 to 15-year-old girls? Did you say?
Yeah,
12 to 16?
Preteen and teen, high schoolers at the.
So,
at the most.
so yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. I don't know if it'd find its audience or not.
Yeah, it just, I have a daughter that's, a teenager, and there's like so many topics that they missed out on that would be more topical, and, they could bring in, it just seems kind of a missed opportunity.
Well, again, it was all about getting to that last scene, Doc.
It was. You're right.
Oh yeah, that
was it. That the whole movie exists to get there.
Here's my impersonation of Fairuza Balk. Thank you. See, I could have played that part. But yeah, that's. I wonder how much she got paid just to turn her head. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's not. Really
I don't even want to go there, but
yeah, but I mean, it's
spoilers.
I mean,
hey, if you ain't figured it out by now, guys, we can't help you.
All right.
It's
I think we ought to wrap this up before we put our foot in our mouth. Let's do this. We're going to give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. This should be interesting if we can pick 3 different favorite scenes. But before we do, if you're listening to this, one, thank you for checking us out and hanging out with us. If you're a return subscriber, thank you so much. Saying that, please subscribe. That's number 2. Hit the like button down below. Hit the bell if you want to be reminded for more. And if you can leave some comments, what are we missing? Did you see this film and did you get it? Did it register with you? Did it connect?
We need a female perspective. Vanessa
yes, we did need Vanessa here, but she's off at her friend's wedding, so yay. Had more fun than we did, I think.
I agree.
Right, let's do this. Our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene. And Dave Dreher, you are up first.
Okay, like I said, I was entertained by this. I watched it late at night after a long day at work, and I did not fall asleep. That's a good sign. It held my attention. It definitely has problems. It was not a film made for my generation of horror fan, but I was entertained by it. I'm going to give it a 2.75.
Oh, that's generous.
And favorite scene. There was 2 kind of heavily dramatic scenes, as I mentioned before. I'm going to go, and again, it's a spoilery one, so I'm going to be purposely vague, but there's a large family secret that she uncovers, and the confrontation between her and her mother, I thought was just very well acted by the mother and by her as well.
Yep.
I thought was quite well, and again, I was kind of moved by that scene. It felt very real to me, so I'm going to go with that.
I like that. Michelle Monaghan is playing the mom.
Oh yes, she was in one of the Mission Impossible films. I remember her from that. The mom. She was. She was. I believe so.
Was.
I think she was Tom Cruise's girlfriend. I think.
She might be.
In my mind, that's who I remembered her from.
Oh, yes. She is Julia Mead. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Good job. All right. Christopher G. Moore, you are up next. What is your final thoughts, your score, and your favorite scene?
For this film, Sabrina the Mall Witch, I'm just kidding. Or am I?
Or
Yeah,
is
this
he?
film
You
is
are not
not
gonna-
is not for my age bracket or my gender bracket. And I think there's probably an audience out there of young women who might enjoy it. I found it to be a little not as structured as what it should with the kind of story they're telling. I think there's a lot of opportunities to tell a new story based in that universe. And this film kind of took a lot of the goth aspects of it and turned it into more more fake witchy. Even though they supposedly had witch advisors on set that blessed things and did all kinds of stuff, but I don't know. It just felt it's almost like what what is the name of the what's in the vampire films with the sparkly?
Oh, the Twilight.
It's kind of like what Twilight did for vampires. This does for witches.
It kind of turns them more into fairies than witches.
They become much more like Disney-fied in just how they just become like more colorful and sparkly and it sort of takes. It definitely doesn't do what the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina does.
No.
I mean, this feels like it with the colorful auras and stuff. It became a little bit too fluorescently wild as opposed to the weirdos of the first film, and I think that's the kind of sad part is that they kind of sucked all the aspect that made the original so cool to where these aren't really the outcasts that they sort of made them out to be. And that's a shame. I can understand what they're going for, but I think in the process of just how they changed certain elements, it just made it less of a thing, and it felt more like a teen commercial in parts, like you'd see on TV, especially in the 80s. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed because I was actually one of the few people that actually thought this might be cool. And I think just how they dealt with certain characters and how they really didn't give much backstory or interesting elements with the rest of the coven. It's just a waste of story, because that's I mean the more meat you give to what you're doing when it comes to having the story and how it plays out, the more interesting it is when it comes to interactions. And when you have a villain who's basically a one-note villain, you have these characters that really have a lot. I mean, the only main character is the Lily character that really makes that has an interesting story. And for me, the more interesting character was the non-witch character, was the Timmy character once he had this big change. So, and yeah, I don't know. I think there needed to be a little bit more conflict between characters, just in the story in general, to make it more interesting. Because once you take the bite out of that, it's like a toothless zombie trying to bite on you. It doesn't do anything. So yeah, as for rating, I'm going to give it a 1.75. I'm not a huge fan of this. I think it's a lot of wasted potential. Even though it has some good parts in it, I kept looking at my watch to see when it was over, and it's only like an hour and a half. So, which is kind of sad, because and even just how it plays out, it feels very methodical, and there's not really a lot of thought put into making it work. I think if you made the characters more interesting, it would have been a more interesting film overall. As for favorite scene, I guess I'm going to have to say the true lie scene where Timmy makes a revelation, which I won't say because it's spoilery, but I think that's a very powerful part of that. When he makes that revelation in front of them. So I don't know, even though you think it would be based around these other characters, and how his interaction later on is very kind of cool. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's all you're gonna say. Yeah, for me, I was disappointed by this as well because I thought they could. I mean, I think this property is a property that can be revived. It just has the right combination of elements, but they didn't bring all those elements in. And I'm not talking about the story, the plot elements from the first one. I'm talking about connecting to today's audience. I just don't see that they have, or if they have, I'm not the target audience, so maybe that's what it is. It totally was lost on me, but I don't think I would recommend this to my daughter. I don't think my daughter would enjoy this. I think she would enjoy The Craft, from way back when in 98, but or 96. But this one, but at the same time, some of the elements worked. I did like Cailee Spaeny. I thought she was, I liked what she brought to the character. She was, she actually brought more to the character, and I think that was there for her to draw on. Do you know what I mean? She brought a lot to it. There was a good casting there. At the same time, even though I wasn't looking at my watch, I'll say that it is. I thought it was brisk and fast paced enough, but it didn't really. It just never had it. It didn't have any highs, right? It didn't really have too many lows, but it didn't really get any highs, right? There wasn't any like whoa moments, right? You can look back at the first one, you can always, and I hate to do that, but that you're like I said, you can't not do that, right? Like when they're flying through the trees and stuff, and when they first discover their powers, there's a lot of wow moments, turning their hair, right? All those things you remember, and the final battle, right? Compare that final battle to this one, you're like, what happened, right? So I'm giving it a 2, and I feel like I'm being generous. But I found it entertaining enough to sit through it. That's weird.
Yeah, it's funny how the big wow moment is when they learn how to stop time, and it's kind of boring.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's weird. So what is my favorite scene? Oh, that's scary. What is my favorite scene? I want to say it's when they unite at the end and they have the big battle, but it kind of just didn't really bring any tension. Is it going to be unfair to say the final reveal because I like what it promises? I like what it suggests, although it was kind of lame too. What happened?
Well, I think they were going for, like the big reveal at the end of, what the fuck was that? Was it Split? What was that one? What was that?
Yeah.
Showed up at the end.
Yeah,
I think that's what they were going for. You'd be like, holy shit! But there was no way they could go there because they basically tell you what's going to happen at about the halfway point of the film.
Imagine what would happen like when if before the other girls showed up, right, and she's facing David Duchovny, if out of the trees flying came,
exactly. There
Nancy
was no
Downs, you would be going, whoa, right? And I don't know. I mean, that might have been unfair to our characters, but the audience would have loved it.
It would have given you the wow factor that we seem to
think. Yeah. But yeah, there you go. I think we should just stop. Well, they stop time. We're gonna stop podcast. All right, The Craft Legacy. It is out now. If you if we talked you into like watching it because you're like, you guys are so wrong, go right ahead and let us know what you think. I do think there's an audience for it. Definitely not the three of us. Yeah, it's been Disney-fied. That's a good way to put it. It has been kind of lifetimed a little bit as well. A lot of the juice was drained out of it. That didn't come out the way I wanted it. But let's move on because I should stop talking now. All right, Christopher, Dave.
Are we going to review Barbie Nutcracker next week? Is that what we're going to go with? Have you seen the Barbie Nutcracker yet?
I have not.
The Barbie, it's an animated Barbie. I mean, come on, we're doing little girly movies.
That is a disturbing collection of words.
Only in your mind, Doc. And Christopher's just like, what the fuck just happened?
Dave,
it's an actual thing. The
I know what this
cracker is an actual thing. It exists.
Stop. Christopher, Dave, thank you for joining me. This actually was a lot of fun. I did enjoy this conversation about this.
Thank you, Doc.
Stupid movie. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Christopher's like, get me out of here.
He's like, I gotta